Hey, you guys, ready for our live at 5? And anyway, I'm Jodi Carlton. If you're new here, and this is my Ask Me Anything live that I do bi-weekly, every other Tuesday. And so today we're just streaming live to YouTube. Next week, I'm going to try another platform and hopefully can push this to my Facebook page and Facebook group as well. So if you're in there, you can watch it there. I'm going to pull my screen over here so I can see the comments. Hi, Rianne. Good to see you. I think you're already here. And McKenna. Um, I was going to, sorry, you guys. I have been on back-to-back coaching calls almost all day, and my voice is almost gone. So I hope that it will last through this live stream today. So if you want to know how to get on a coaching call with me, just so you know, the first step is to do a consultation with me. And so there are three different types of consultations. And one is it's called the initial basic consultation. And this is 175 US dollars. And this is best for if you're an individual partner, whether you're neurodiverse or neurotypical, and you just want to talk to me about your situation and not sure where to start. That's the best route for you. The second is a neurodiversity assessment and screening. So if you're wondering if you're on the spectrum or if your partner's on the spectrum, and so if you think it's you, then you can book this screening for yourself, and we'll send out to you our screening assessment tool that we use, which was developed at Cambridge. It's a pretty good tool, and I can get you some pretty definitive clarity by the end. That's a 90-minute consult, and that's 325 US dollars. And you'll know by the end of the session whether or not you're on the spectrum or not. I can't call that technically a diagnosis here in the United States, although I'm trained to diagnose and have diagnosed plenty of people in the past. But just due to licensure regulations, I can't give you any kind of written, formal, official diagnosis. But I can absolutely save you thousands of dollars in going and getting tested with a neuropsychologist. And the other type of consultation is comprehensive. It's a comprehensive relationship assessment, and it does include a neurodiversity screening. And by the way, if you're coming to me as a couple, I have you both do the neurodiversity screening. I have you both take the tool or take the assessment. And the reason for this is that I don't just want to know how one of you scores. I want to know where you both score. That way, that tells me not just where one of you is that's maybe suspected as being on the spectrum, but I want to know how far apart you are from each other. And then we will talk about that. We will actually, I'll look at the way you scored your answers, and we'll talk about what drove somebody's score up or down. And this can really be huge in figuring out your relationship struggles, because if one of you is processing the world what really one way and the other is processing it really the other way, you're a lot farther apart. So just in the last week, for example, I had a couple do a relationship evaluation with me, and he scored really high and she scored really low, and so they were really far apart in how they process information and relationship stuff. And then just today, I did an assessment with somebody who they were not very far apart. He did score in the high trait range, and she scored kind of in a suggestive range. So they actually weren't that far apart and didn't have as many differences in their relationship. Part of that comprehensive screening also includes a couple interview. It's like an assessment tool that I have that's a pretty lengthy tool, and it gives us a pretty comprehensive report with charts and graphs and all sorts of things. It's not specific to neurodiversity, but I look at it through the lens of neurodiversity, and it really identifies areas in your relationship that are strengths and are weaknesses, and we go through all of that. And that's 425 US dollars. You can book any of these consultations on our website, which is spectrumrelationships.com. So just go there, and there's a consultation link. And then once you've had that initial consultation with me, you can actually start doing private coaching with me. And I have a couple of different formats for that. We have a private coaching intensive. That's a 2-month intensive where I practically move in with you virtually. And then we just have ongoing session by session based on my calendar availability. So anyway, there's all that. Hi, Clara. Hi, Kel. How are you? Good to see you here. So you guys, if you have questions for me today, this is my Ask Me Anything. How do I do this? Ask Me Anything live. So those of you who've been here before, you know you can drop your questions here in the comments and we'll talk about it and chat about it. And so I'll wait to hear what you have to ask me today. But uh, I'll start off since nobody's got any questions yet. I want to just talk to you guys a little bit about some themes that have been coming up this week in my Facebook group, in my private coaching, my consultations. I've got a little notepad here to help me remember what I wanted to share with you guys. Um, so one of the things that keeps coming up is how we are truly different when we are neurodiverse. So that word diverse means different. And a lot of times when couples come to me, both both partners kind of feel or think or believe that there's the way they approach life is the way to approach life, and it's like everybody else does it. At least neurotypical partners a lot of times feel like, well, that's what everybody does. And then neurodiverse partners or autistic on the spectrum partners are sort of locked into their perspective as well. And so couples kind of oftentimes want me to sort of be the judge and, who's right, who's wrong. And that is not what it's about, you guys. It's more about understanding each other and understanding where you're different and how you're different. And in a marriage or in a relationship where you're dating, it's so important. We have to learn how to recognize the validity of our partner and the perspective that our partner has and what our partner is bringing to the relationship in terms of their point of view, their style and way of doing things. So this is about how we're different, and it's so important. But so many of you are in that boxing ring. I call it the boxing ring. I did a little video on my Facebook page last week, I think, about how when we're different, oftentimes that makes us feel defensive and we want to defend our position. So the boxing gloves go on. And when you are in the boxing ring with your partner, it is almost impossible to see their perspective or to even when you have the boxing gloves on, your partner's going to be on the defensive too. So they're not likely to hear your perspective either. So it's really important to take those boxing gloves off and be a detective to understand more about your partner and to learn more about what their perspective is and where they're coming from. All right, I see the comments popping up here. So, hi, Kel. So you're saying, how is it best to deal with resentment from the NT partner's perspective when it has built up so much over time? Okay, this is a good question. And that actually came up in my last coaching call just an hour and a half ago. I got off that call. And so I don't know if you are the NT partner. It doesn't really matter if you are or you aren't. The answer is still the same. Okay. To answer this question, I'm going to back up just a little bit. In my communication program that I teach you guys, this is called Crack the Communication Code. I teach that there are 4 stages of communication. And the 4th stage, I'm going to fast forward to that one, is about the narrative that we have about our relationship. It's how we store our memories of our relationship, of our interactions, our conversations. It's what we remember. It's how we recall it. This contributes to stage 1 of communication. Stage 1 is what we bring to it. It's what we bring to every interaction. It's what we bring to our relationship. And this is all made up of our beliefs, our values, our personal history, our relationship history. And then stage 2 is how we interact. Stage 3 is how we appraise or interpret our interactions. Here's the thing, and this is exactly what came up in my coaching session today. My NT partner, I was having a one-on-one session with her, and she said, I've got all this conditioning from years in this relationship where I've responded to him based on what he has said and done. And then the thing is, all of that conditioning is based on stage 3, which is how she interpreted and how he interpreted too the meaning of the interactions. What he said to me, why did he say that to me? Does he not respect me? Does he not care for me? Does he feel like is he trying to dominate me? We went through a particular example where we were able to unpackage it, and she realized that he wasn't trying to be in control and in charge, but he was really overwhelmed by the situation. That completely changes the narrative. It completely changes how we remember things. I remember a partner, a woman I was working with last year, and she was in the retirement. This couple had been married for a long time, several decades. And she was starting to realize that how he interacted with her and the things he said didn't actually mean what she'd always thought. And she said, Jodi, I have just realized that I cannot trust my memories of our relationship because I realize now that what I thought was happening and what I thought he meant and what I thought he was doing, I was actually misinterpreting. And so you asked me, how does an NT partner deal with this? We have to start looking at unpackaging all of those experiences from once you have that framework of neurodiversity and you understand that you're in a neurodiverse relationship, you have to start unpackaging all those memories and say, what was really happening here? What did it mean? Did I misinterpret this? Did he, my or she, how was it being interpreted, and what memories may be askew because of this? All right, you guys are blowing up the comments over here. So let me see what you're saying. Clara, you have a comment. I'm gonna circle back to your comment. I want to see if anybody. Let's see if anybody's commenting on what I'm saying here. Okay, so Kelly, you're saying I feel the same way. Sometimes I feel like saying, what's in it for me? If it seems we have to do so much more to understand them, but we may not get that back. Maybe that's what you're talking to Claire. Okay, you're talking about Clara's question. Hold on one second. Oh, okay. All right. Kelly, you said thank you for that. All right, Claire, I'm going to circle back to your question. Clara says, I have a question about that topic of structure versus spontaneity. Yes, so this was the one that came up I actually posted a poll today in the Facebook group and asked my members about, we went back to school in my household. One of my children did. My 15-year-old, my daughter, who is on the spectrum, is leaving for college in 2 weeks. Oh my gosh. So I was asking the group, does this issue of structure versus spontaneity come up in your relationships? Because oftentimes it can be a real problem. And Claire's saying, how do you meet in the middle so AS partners don't drive the NT partners nuts? And I would say, you said so AS partners don't drive. I would say it goes both ways. You can both drive each other nuts because an NT partner, drove my ex-husband nuts with all of my spontaneity. He called it my add-ons. So if we had plans to go somewhere, like if we were going out to dinner, we'd be out to dinner and I'd say, hey, while we're out, let's run by the grocery store to get da 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 da. Or hey, and then I'd have like 3 or 4 add-ons because I'm like functioning from a really efficiency, not versus linear. He's like, okay, we're going to the restaurant and we're coming back. I was functioning more from what are all the things I can pile in and get it all done so I don't have to worry about it. And it would drive him crazy because he hated my add-ons. My autistic daughter cannot stand my add-ons either, and she'll just flat out refuse. So, Clara, I want to take the I don't know what's the word. It's not just you guys. It's not just neurodiverse folks. It's we can drive each other crazy. So, your question is, how do you meet in the middle? And I think the awareness and understanding of your differences is where it's at. Just like I was saying at the beginning of the video, the live, it's not about who's right or who's wrong. Is structure right or is spontaneity right? There's no such thing. It's about being aware of yourself and aware of your partner. So I know, if I know that I'm a very spontaneous person, but I know my partner needs a lot of structure, in any given moment, we use our 2 or 10 scale. This is stage 1 or step 1, you guys, in the crack the communication code system. Step 1, it is free. It's the Battle Busters system, because this issue of spontaneity versus structure can really be a battle in your relationship. So what this system teaches you to do is evaluate in any given moment, how important is this to me that I'm wanting to do or not do? And how much is this going to impact my life? Or how much is it impacting my life? And in this step 1, I teach you how to rate how important it is and how much it's going to impact your life. And so if it's really important to you, like really important to you, that you don't do something or you do something, or if it's really going to impact your life in a big way, you rate that on a scale. And this is how you can communicate to your partner and say, hey, this is an 8 for me. This really means an 8 to me, or this is going to affect me in a way that's an 8. Now, this is important, you guys. We don't get to judge our partner's ratings. A lot of us are going to be like, well, I don't think this is really an 8 for you. Well, we don't get to decide. So if I'm a neurotypical, if my neurodiverse partner says it's really going to be affect me like an 8 if we go do this extra thing, my brain is going to get overwhelmed and frazzled, and it's going to just really ruin the rest of my day. I don't get to say, well, you shouldn't be that way, or it's not really an 8, you'll be fine. We don't get to do that. We need to respect our partner's ratings. Now, that said, we need to really stop and think about whether something is truly an 8, because a 7, an 8, a 9, a deal breaker is I can't be in this relationship. I cannot live this way. I have to end the relationship. That is a 10, you guys. So this scale, if you're not familiar with it, is 2 or 10. 2 to 10. So if we really want to do something, we really want to do it, but it's not really going to affect our lives. I mean, is it really an 8? We can't inflate our scores just to get what we want. We have to really be legit honest with ourselves about how important something is to us and how much it's going to impact our lives. So if you haven't downloaded this system, please go to the website, and it's right there. Crack the communication code is the tab. Battle Buster Step 1. It's free for you to download. Do it now. There's a printout, and you put it on the mirror in your bathroom and in the fridge, on the fridge, everywhere. Okay, let me scroll down and see what you guys are saying about all this. All right. And so Clara's saying, I loved the video about soft starts so it doesn't build cortisol and begin flight mode. Already starting to use the principle in my interactions, and it's making a huge difference. So what she's talking about is this crack the communication code curriculum. And so once you get through the free stage 1, then there's a video in stage 2 about conflict, and then stage 3 or step 3, step 3, I really break down the stages of communication, and it's a multi-module. You get to listen to audio recordings of group calls. And so, yeah, so Clara, you're talking about the soft starts. That is really important in how we initiate conversation, because if we start up with a harsh, then this is a John and Julie Gottman method, by the way. Some of their work is too emotion-based, but some of it is really, really helpful for neurodiverse couples. But if you come at your partner with a, why didn't you? Or you should just, or I don't understand why, or these harsh startups, it just immediately puts us on the defensive, and we're like, whoa, and we go into fight or flight, and boxing gloves, go on. It's not conducive to a very good conversation, very productive conversation. All right, let's see. Hi, Glenn. Glenn says it's a terrible idea to move girls who are currently living in a city or town after you attracted with her on social. You've asked this before, Glenn, and I don't think it's good to move anywhere. Nobody needs to move near you or you move toward them until you have a established long-term relationship. And if y'all have been watching me very long, you know that I'm not a big fan of long distance relationships, especially if they are neurodiverse, because you are just not showing up as your authentic self in a long distance relationship. It's just very, very, very difficult. So, um, Rianne, uh, you say, Jodi, can I ask this? Can neurodiverse create drama about anything? Has been told that I do create problems and dramas. Um, as in that my mind does overdrive, stress levels go really high. Okay, you know what? I don't love this word drama here because drama is usually a negative word and it's usually a critical word when someone says you're being dramatic or you're creating drama. It's very demeaning and diminishing, and it comes with it the idea that what someone is experiencing is not valid, is not legit. Now, there are people who are dramatic, and it's drama is usually some form of insecure attention seeking. So drama is when there's I'm insecure about something. I'm trying to manipulate the emotions of others in order to get the attention to make me feel better about myself. It can come out in the form of jealousy or just all sorts of different behaviors. Can someone on the spectrum be dramatic like that? Yes. It's not as common though, because drama is highly emotionally manipulative. And most folks on the spectrum are not in the business of manipulating emotions. Now, I can hear a whole bunch of neurotypicals out there going, mine does. Here's the thing, your neurodiverse partner is probably not trying to manipulate your emotions, but you are receiving their behavior. You are perceiving their behavior as if that's what's happening because you are neurotypical and you read into behavior what the meaning is. It's what we do. It's how we're wired. The thing is, those of us who are neurotypical, we look at so many different levels of communication for information, and we do it automatically on autopilot. This is something else that was on my list. So there's nonverbal cues, which is body language, facial expressions, tone of voice. We look at timing, we look at intensity, um, we look at the actual words that are being said, but we also look at all the different meanings of the possible words that are being said. And then we latch on to the most likely meaning. But that's all influenced by what we're bringing to it as well. So, our fears about the conversation, our insecurities about our partner and how they feel about us, our expectations, our goals, our history, our traumas, all that stuff influences how we actually perceive what our partner is saying. So, a lot of times when we interpret a neurodiverse person as being dramatic or creating drama, we are we are perceiving something that's not actually there. I can't tell you how many of my autistic folks have said to their partners in my coaching sessions and just to me, listen to the words I'm saying. The words I'm saying are what I think and feel and mean. The issue there is then the neurotypical's like, well, which meaning? And that's where you guys misunderstand each other because a lot of times those of you on the spectrum have a very specific one meaning to what you're saying, and you don't even realize that those of us who are neurotypical can have multiple meanings for one word or one expression. And so a lot of my folks on the spectrum were like, I had no idea that this expression or what I said could have had so many different meanings. So you guys are misunderstanding each other, and the communication program teaches you a script for how to confirm and clarify what you each are saying to each other and to make sure that you're hearing each other and being heard. Now, Rihanna, I want to go back to your question. If you are overstressed and your mind is in overdrive and your stress levels are going high, you're experiencing an overwhelm. And when you're overwhelmed, that's not drama. That's overwhelm. That is sensory overwhelm, cognitive overwhelm. Drama is when emotions are intentionally being manipulated, sometimes unintentionally, but usually intentionally in some way. So I don't think that that's what you're referring to, but I think that your neurotypical family members are misinterpreting what's happening for you. That's what I think is happening. All right. Let me. Goodness, I can't keep up with you guys. Claire is saying the stages of evaluation is great because it makes us put the issue in perspective before the talk. Yes, that's right. That goes back to the script that I just mentioned to you guys. Learning how to go through the different stages to understand the stages of communication helps to clarify all of this. Hi, McKenna. So you said, you're saying you could prime the neurodiverse partner by saying ahead there may be up to 2 add-ons and then they've built in the plan. That yes, yes, and that's all about doing it in advance. You know, uh, she's referring back to the structure versus routine. The prep is really important versus just the in the moment. Hey, let's do this. That's right. Um, Kel's saying I've used your 2 or 10 scale before and it's very useful. But if you've been in a neurodiverse relationship for so long and have gone without a lot of this on your scale for years, how do you realize or find if you ever really needed them? So, are you asking me if you are you asking if you're not sure if you need your partner? Let me read that again. You've gone without a lot of this on a lot of the things that are important. Oh, you're saying how do you figure out if you ever really needed those things that that you've been going without? I think it's a matter of evaluating in any given moment in time. I was saying to some of my clients today that we go through a process of re-choosing. We choose our partner over and over again. And some of us make a commitment and get married. And a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that once I'm married, the commitment's there and I'm in it. And I'm not a fan of just saying, well, we'll get married unless it doesn't work out and then we can always divorce. I'm not a fan of that. No way, no how. But if we just assume that because we're committed, we're in it, then that also prevents us from really attending to the relationship and growing the relationship. And what happens is even if we're not planning to bail when things go poorly, over time the relationship really, really deteriorates. And after 10, 15 years, 19 years is a deadly year, deadly for marriages that are disconnected. We just have nothing left. So, to answer your question, Kel, we have to reassess over time because our situation changes, our relationship changes, our personality, our finances, our housing, being a parent or not. Things change, and so we have to stop and evaluate, where am I now? This might have been important to me 5 years ago, but is it important to me now? Or how important is this thing to me now? How much is it impacting my life now? So, whatever was important to us in the past needs to be reassessed regularly so that we can stay um, current and clear with our partner. And on that topic, a lot of you who are neurodiverse forget that because something was the way it is at one moment in time, that doesn't mean it's that way forever. So it is important to reevaluate, check in with your partner. assess. This is why partners want to hear I love you more than once. Those of you who are neurodiverse have said to me, well, I've told my partner that I love her or him, but my partner wants to know repeatedly, do I still love them? And that doesn't make sense to me because I've already said I do. Well, things change. Our opinions change. Our perspective changes. Our feelings about someone change. And so a neurotypical pattern is to check in and clarify. And so those of you who are neurodiverse, just know this, that if you've ever told your partner how you feel and think about something, they may need to hear it again to see if that's still how you think. Because if you don't tell them, they're not going to know. They're not going to know for sure that that's how you still feel. All right, McKenna, you're saying asking for things in the future is better to do early in the day when the mood is better equals more receptive. So you're talking about the add-ons again. And yeah, that's probably true for most folks who are neurodiverse, but it can depend on the individual. So you just need to know your partner. Ask your partner, when's the best time for me to approach you about a change in the schedule? When do you feel the most energized? Um, all right. Okay, let's see. Kel, you're saying my ND relationship was long distance for the first year or so, which is what I think affected my ND relationship pertaining to routines and communication practices and trust. Yeah, being long distance absolutely can because it's hard to really, you don't know what someone's routines are when you're long distance. Um, Even if you live in the same town and you don't see them except maybe once a week, or if you don't live close enough to someone to start to be involved in their routines and them and yours, it's something that you just don't even realize is a thing. And that's one of the reasons why I think long distance relationships can be particularly difficult for everybody, not just neurodiverse. Rianne, you're saying it's just like I've been asking my family who are NT to help me with things, and it's just driving me mad as they say I have to wait. So yeah, so you're when you're asking them to help you, you're needing that help in the moment right then, and so it can be difficult. When I get I'm not neurodiverse, but when I get ready to do something, and I finally have a moment to do it, and then I can't for some reason, like I need help, or I got to call customer service or something, and it's like I really needed to get this done right now. It can create stress and get me frazzled. And you're on the, people are on the spectrum. It can be even more frustrating. And so your family's seeing that as drama when really it's an overwhelm of stress for you. All right. Hi, mids. I don't know how to pronounce these YouTube usernames. You're saying very true. Long-term relationships change over time, even though I hate change. All relationships change over time, and long distance is no different. Um, we always have to check in with ourselves and our partner over the course of the relationship to reevaluate where things are. Okay, I don't see any more comments, so let me go back to my handy dandy list of things that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Um, I want to share with you an analogy that I use regularly in my coaching. Most of you have heard my analogy about the mountain, about perspectives and being on different sides of the mountain. But something I want to share with you, I talk about the problems in our relationship being like weeds growing in our yard. So I don't know if you're watching from the US or if you're in the UK or somewhere else in the world, but here in my little piece of the world in Georgia in the US, we have these green lawns and yards, and everybody's really proud of their yards, and we get, if we live in a neighborhood like mine, you get in trouble if you have weeds growing in your yard. They'll send you a little nasty gram in your mailbox. And so we work hard to maintain the beauty of the sod that's there, and we put effort into it. We put time, we put money into it. But sometimes weeds start growing. And I want to use this analogy to our relationship. Your relationship is like this pretty lawn that you have, and you put effort into it, you attend to it, you invest money in it, you invest time, but problems pop up and they become weeds in your yard. And problems that are unresolved, that you don't know how to resolve, start to spread. Weeds grow faster than the beautiful sod in my yard. They grow faster. And so in your relationship, the weeds will be bigger and show up more often. They're going to be a lot more noticeable. And when you look out in my yard right now, you see this beautiful grass and you see these weeds. As a matter of fact, I called the lawn care company yesterday and said, "Hey, we got these weeds," because that's what you notice. You notice the pain points. You notice the struggles more than the rest of the beautiful yard. The thing is, we have a tendency to deal with the weeds by getting our little lawnmower out and mowing the grass. We mow the grass and we cut those weeds down and you can't see them anymore. Everything looks nice and smooth and you can't see them anymore. But then a few days later, boop, the grass is growing slow, but the weeds are like, whoop, I'm still here. Same thing with your relationship. If the problems are not resolved and you put some kind of temporary fix in place, maybe you've tried to accommodate your partner or they've tried to accommodate you, you've tried to make a behavioral change of some sort, but it just keeps coming back. Here's the problem. You have to get to the root of the problem in your relationship. Just like the weeds in my yard, if I mow them down, they're going to grow right back. They'll be fixed temporarily, but they're going to come back and they're going to spread and they're going to get bigger and it's going to get ginormous and they're going to take over my yard. Your problems are going to take over your relationship. It's critical to get to the root of why this problem is happening, not just what. You guys all tend to argue about what happened, what was said, who said what. You just rehash over and over again what happened and what you want to change or what your partner wants to be different and what. You don't stop and go, why? It's important to stop and go, why do I need this? Why does this bother me? And why is that? And why is that? And why is that? And just really dig deeper, both of you. And sometimes your partner's not gonna cooperate in this. A lot of times your partner's not gonna cooperate in this. But all we can do is what we can do. So we have to stop and go, why is this an issue? Why is this behavior, even when we try to change it, why is it not happening? This is a parenting tip too, you guys, because you can tell your kids over and over again what you want, what you expect of them, what you want them to do. But if they continue to not follow through, then the next thing to do is ask why. Are they just disrespectful little brats? Maybe sometimes. But for some of you, it's not about that. It's about there's a reason why they're struggling to implement the changes that you want them to make. I'm getting an error on my side, you guys, that the streaming's not very smooth, so I apologize. I'm not sure why, but I don't know why. I need to understand why. It's probably my streaming service. But hello, 88. You said, hi, Jodi. You mentioned a lot that couples need to be willing and motivated to be helped. What if either or both of you have depression from years of not knowing the dynamic of neurodiversity? Is it still not willing or motivated from that perspective? And how do you get out of it? Does can't or won't change make a difference? Okay, so you're calling this depression. I'm not sure that's the word I would use. Probably, although it sounds like hopelessness maybe. And hopelessness is associated with depression. What I'm hearing is that there's a lack of a belief. There's not a belief that this can be fixed. There's a lot of history recorded in your narrative about your relationship, which if you weren't here at the beginning of the live, I was talking about how we store our memories and our narratives based on our perceptions of our partner. So I'm hearing there's a pretty strong narrative there that the relationship, that the partner, um, that there's not a lot of hope there, and there's a lot of wounds, a lot of pain. And you're saying, is it still not willing or motivated from that perspective, and how do you get out of it? Um, can't change and won't change. Can't has to do with ability. You said, does can't or won't change make a difference? Um, can't is more about actual ability, actual emotional ability, cognitive ability, developmental ability. And this is a really different thing from motivation. Hold on one second. I need to message my assistant something. There. Um, so it's the motivation and the willingness are two different things as well. So I wanted to clarify. So willingness is when, I want this. I haven't, and I want this to happen. I'm willing to give it a try. Motivation is the actual intention to follow through. It's, or am I going to actually do this? So yes, in relationships where this dynamic hasn't been understood as neurodiverse for a really long time, um, then it there's a lot there. The way to change it is to start unpackaging all those memories. It's like I said about this couple I was working with, when she realized that her memories weren't based on what really, that they were based on misperceptions. So you start taking those memories and putting them through the uh, the evaluation of, what was actually happening there. I know what I remember, and I know how I interpreted it, and I know how I felt, but let me go back and open my mind to the idea that perhaps what I perceived and what I remember is not quite accurate, because there's a high degree of misperception in neurodiverse relationships. And so, what was perceived as an insult or an attempt to control or an attempt to manipulate oftentimes was not that at all. So, if you actually do have the willingness to be in this relationship, then the motivation is that comes from a step, a willing. The motivation comes from, okay, am I going to relook at all this? And honestly, what have you got to lose? Because if you leave this relationship, it's still going to benefit you to reevaluate some of what you remember about what happened to you. Because if you don't if you don't gain some insight about this relationship, you will carry this forward into your next relationship. That's what you're going to be bringing that to your next relationship. So being motivated to actually figure this out is only going to benefit you in the long run, whether your relationship survives or not. So I hope that answered your question. All right, Claire is saying, in case of Aspie kids, sometimes disobedience, it's indirect language or abstract. Took me a few years to understand the food is getting cold is not interpreted as please eat dinner. That is a very good example of how language is not used the same. Neurotypicals, we use innuendo constantly, and we don't even realize how much we're using innuendo. So an expression has an implied therefore to it. So the food is getting cold, and that's all that's said. The meaning is, therefore, let's eat dinner soon. Neurodiverse folks, like Claire's pointing out, oftentimes don't realize that there's a therefore that follows an expression. And neurotypicals don't know that their neurodiverse children and partners aren't hearing the implied meaning. So a neurodiverse person might respond to the food is getting cold to okay, and a neurotypical might be like, well, are we going to eat dinner or not? And neurodiverse might be like, oh, is did you mean you want to eat now? Well, yeah. And so this just it can feel disrespectful to the neurotypical. Neurodiverse person can be like, I didn't know what that meant. Um, Language, you guys, is so different between neurodiverse and neurotypical. You just need to assume that you're not understanding each other the same way. If you're in a neurodiverse relationship, assume that you are not understanding your partner and that your partner's not understanding you. Build in clarification constantly. You know, what did you mean by that? Constantly clarify with your partner what what did you actually mean by that? Here's what I meant. Super important. Um, let's see what's next. All right. Clara says I used to have to remember to ask my son to bring the trash cans and the lids from the curb to the backyard. Yes. So if you quite literally say bring in the cans, might not realize that the lids are included in that. Yes. Very specific. Okay. You're saying hear you loud and clear, Kel. Good. I'm glad that was helpful to you. All right. So you're saying 88, you're saying, thanks, Jodi. I guess it's also hard to feel motivated if he doesn't seem interested at all. Okay, and so there's a you're saying he doesn't seem interested, and he may not be. I don't know. But if you are the neurotypical partner here, which I think you are, right? I think I know who you are. Then it's very important that we never project emotions onto our partners, because it could be that he is interested, but he has absolutely no idea how to do how to fix things. So the way that neurodiverse folks communicate their interest and their willingness is not what you expect to see as a neurotypical. If someone's interested, is not necessarily how your neurodiverse partner is going to communicate interest to you. On a coaching call today, I just recently gotten started with this couple, and she said to me, he comes in, he's in my space a lot, and he says he's not bored, but I really think he's bored. And I stopped her there and I said, hold on. we cannot decide for our partners what they're feeling, because we're at that point we're deciding, well, what would I do, or what would I expect someone to do or feel based on their behavior. And the thing is, if our neurodiverse partners are saying something that doesn't seem to line up with what we think they're probably feeling, we really need to listen to what they're saying and not what we believe they mean. Because neurodiverse folks are usually quite literal about what they're feeling. And sometimes it's hard for us to even comprehend that they would not be feeling a certain way. But neurodiverse experience is so different from a neurotypical experience. So be cautious about making assumptions about what your partner's feeling. Clarify. Be a detective. All right, you guys. If anybody has another question, shoot it at me. Otherwise, I'm going to call it a day. As always, really great conversation, and I love talking to you guys. Claire says, I believe accessing Jodi's video library makes a huge difference if one of the partners starts to change perspective about communication styles. I'm glad that you brought that up because a lot of what she's referring to is there's I have the communication program, crack the communication code, but I also have a library of videos. It's almost 100 videos. There are a few in there that are recordings of these lives that a lot of those are not here on YouTube because I recorded them in other platforms. But a lot of them are actually broken down into shorter clips, 3-minute clips, 5-minute clips, and they're organized by categories like identity, relationship, clarity, conflict, communication. And so a lot of partners come to me and say, "What if my partner's not willing or on board?" You know, the willingness came up. What if my partner's not on board? And my answer to that is do your part, because do your part to understand it and get clarity, because so many, I can't even tell you how many neurotypical partners, and now sometimes even neurodiverse partners are coming in first, come to this program on their own. And they either start with here, the lives, or the Facebook group, and then they subscribe, or it's not even a subscription, it's just a one time fee for the library. I think it's $45. Um, they start watching the videos, and sometimes they even do private coaching with me. And because their own understanding is starting to really, really elevate so much and improve, that the way they show up in the relationship, which is stage one, it's what we bring to it, it's what we bring to every interaction. It changes so much that their partner goes, "What's going on here?" I can, they see a difference, they experience a difference, and they're curious. They're like, "I want to know what's different." And I've had partners go through the entire communication curriculum on their own. And then once you're in for life, and so is your partner. So I've had partners come through it, and then 6 months later, here they come again with their neurodiverse partner, or their neurotypical partner, because they saw a difference and they wanted to learn more. So do your part. And in getting your own education, it will only improve your life, you guys. It will, raising your own awareness and understanding is you have nothing to lose, because if nothing more, it you will just get clarity and understanding about what's happening in your relationship, and maybe even clarity about whether you want to still be in the relationship, if it's even possible. You're welcome, McKenna. All right, you guys, I'm going to call it a day. I will be back here in 2 weeks, and I'm hoping to stream from a different platform. And so I'm hoping that this will also be live on my Facebook page and my Facebook group. If you're not in the group, it is for, we have a few single folks in there that have been there for a long time, but it's primarily for folks who are currently in relationships. Here, this YouTube channel, anybody is free to subscribe and follow me here and ask me questions. And if you really need some more clarity about whether or not you're on the spectrum or your partner is, set up a consultation, and we'll get you some clarity. All right. Hi, EC. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Bye.